Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're watching or listening to this, and welcome to this week's episode of the Non-Identity Podcast. Now, this week we're joined by a multi-generational personality, so the older lot might recognise him from his days at Soccer AM, and us younger generation might recognise him along with JaackMaate, Stevie White and Alfie Indrid as one of the founding fathers of the Foreskins. It's Mr. Robbie Knox. Hi, Robbie, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, how are we doing? That sounds absolutely horrific. Yes, but yeah.
Before we get on to happy hour and everything you're doing now, can you just take us back to the start? Where was you born and where did you grow up?
I was born on the Isle of Sheppey in Kent, which it sort of sits in the Thames estuary. I lived there for 18 years. Quite enjoyed it. I mean, you didn't really know anywhere else, really, sort of thing. Sheppey was a bit rough, if I'm honest, but sort of kept away from all that sort of stuff. But where I grew up, it was like at the top of a hill with there's woods up to play in and stuff like that. So yeah, I had a good time.
No, that's good. And then you went off to university. Was you studying media at university?
Studying economics at University of East Anglia, yeah.
So how did you get into media? Because I know you did radio at university, didn't you?
Yeah, so I did the student radio. I knew I didn't want to become a banker or anything like that with economics, but at the time university was free to go to, so I wanted to go to university, but I didn't really care what I studied. I was quite good at economics, I found it quite interesting, so I thought I'd do that. But I got into the student radio while I was at university. I wanted to get into sort of media sort of thing. It was probably radio I wanted to get into, to be honest. Then I went and lived in Canada for a year. And when I came back, some guy I had done student radio with, a guy called Dan Trelfer. He'd been working at a TV studio in London. So he was moving on to another job and he knew they were looking for someone to replace him. So he suggested me. So I went along and got that job. And that was my first media job, working as a runner at a TV studio, making tea and tidying up dressing rooms and stuff.
What shows was you working on?
So different shows would come in. So I worked at the studio, so it wasn't one show. Like things would come in for do their filming, block and go. So it was there was the first series of Weakest Link. There was what else? 15 to 1 was done there, which is like a quiz show. Don't know how old you are, but you might. I don't know if you remember that. Quite a few. I don't think there's many other. There's one of the cooking ones. Either can't cook, won't cook, or ready steady cook, or some kind of cooking quiz. I can't remember which one. A few things like that.
And being a runner, what is a runner for people who don't know?
Yeah, so a runner is basically the lowest job in the TV ladder traditionally. So it's basically just doing sort of quite manual tasks or just things that need doing, to be honest. Like if someone needs to go and get something from the shop, you'll go and do that. For the studio, a lot of it was like putting drinks in dressing rooms, making tea, checking everything, with some towels in dressing rooms, bit of flower arranging. And then you got to do other little bits as well, like you do assistant floor managing on some shows and stuff like that, and got to do auto cue and other little bits like that. But generally, dog's body type sort of thing. So it's generally the first rung on the TV ladder.
And was you enjoying the experience?
Yeah, I loved it. It was a great job. I mean, I was earning £10,000 a year in central London, which isn't great. It wouldn't be great now, but certainly it wasn't great at the time either. But we got breakfast and lunch for free. So we just eat a lot there. And because we were young as well, me and my friend Tim, who was the runner with me, we'd like go out to like 4 a.m. or something, go and just sleep in the dressing rooms and go to work the next day, something. So it was a lovely had sort of like a family feel to it, the studio. It was like an independent studio. It wasn't a big corporate thing. So it was quite a nice group of people. So it was a great sort of first job, really.
And was there anything that surprised you about working in the studio? Because when I was about 15, I was on a CBBC program called See You in Call. So they come to our school, they auditioned us, and all the parts were played by young people. It was like a courtroom drama. But each episode was a different case. I had to play a racist. So that weren't too good. So because of that, I had to have a live interview on CBBC just to make it clear that it was only acting and that weren't my views. But because we weren't part of Equity or anything like that, I had to sign something saying that I was not entitled to any money.
Right.
So we got the free lunch and all that stuff. But yeah, it just really surprised me that when I turned up to BBC Studio, like when we actually went into the CBBC studio, it was like a front room. It was very small and
That's what everyone says. Yeah, that is like when we did Soccer AM as well. People go, "God, the studio's so small." And it became an in joke with us.
it really threw me as well because like there was a BBC teapot and a cup on the table, and the cup had a chip in it and the pot had a crack in it. I'm thinking this is the BBC.
Oh, a lot of sets look really ropey when you see them up close, like the paint's all chipping and stuff like that. There's scuff marks everywhere. But when you got it on a wide camera, and it might well have changed now with 4K and stuff. Certainly when I was on TV, when I started, there wasn't even widescreen. It was like 4:3 sort of dimensions. Yeah, it might well have changed now, but certainly, yeah, a lot of things do look a bit shabby because they're getting dragged around all the time. Also, the other thing that surprised me, the floor gets painted a lot. They're always painting the floor. That gets redone all the time because cameras are rolling around and over it. And also, it might change what color it is. A lot of the time, it's a black floor, but they might need a white show for a game show. So floors are always getting painted in TV studios.
So, how did Soccer AM come about?
So again, the same guy, Dan Trelfer, he was working for a company called Avalon, who were Tim Lovejoy, who was the presenter and producer of Soccer AM at the time. They were his agent, and he knew through that Tim was looking for someone to work in a sort of low-level job at Soccer AM, and he knew that I watched Soccer AM and loved it. So he just suggested I sent the CV off. I went, sent the CV off, got an interview. They offered it to someone else. They couldn't start in time, so I got the job. Yeah.
Right time, right place sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Be flexible.
So, how did like the skits and stuff come about?
So we'd have quite a routine to the week as you have to do because we're doing like 40 odd shows a year. And I was there for 7 years. So someone better at maths can work that out. 280 shows, maybe. Sounds about right. So we did we would go in, we'd have an ideas meeting on the Tuesday where everyone had to come bring a few ideas, and some people brought better ideas than others. Sometimes you'd have an off week and it was hard. Sometimes you have some great things, sort of thing. And in that, there'd be a lot of maybe sketch ideas in there. And if things were developed during the week as well, and then we'd have a final script meeting on the Friday morning to decide exactly what's going to be in the show, and then get everything in for the show the next day.
And what do you think was the success of Soccer AM? Because I know for me, I was a teenager. I was about 15 when you started on, and I wouldn't say I'm a big football fan. I tell everyone I support Liverpool. I know you're a Liverpool fan as well, but I'm more of a football follower than I would say a fan. Because I couldn't tell you like every player that's playing now and what the score was in the weekend.
Yeah.
Like that. But for me, Soccer AM was a bit like Top Gear. I'm not into cars, but I'd sit down and watch Top Gear because it was Jeremy, James May, and Mick Harmon. And with you guys, you had like the Soccerette, you had your little skits going, you had bands in the studio. Now, do you think that was the appeal?
I think it was accessible. I think there was a lot of things that came together to make it what it was, and I do think it was at the time as good as any show on TV. I certainly when I finished that, there was nothing I looked around and thought I'd want to work on that because I worked on what I thought was the best show. I think it was a mix of things. I think it was accessible. It was very positive and open-minded. Every year, some show would start that tried to on another channel that tried to be like Soccer AM, and they would happen all the time on BBC Two or Channel 4, wherever it was. They'd start their shows up, and they'd never do very well because they all were nasty. They didn't get. We would make fun of things, but it was always in a positive, inclusive way. And I think a lot of the time people get that wrong. And you can, like, for example, I think of a good example. Okay, so we had if a player did an outrageous dive, the other shows would go, "Oh, look at this terrible dive, look at that," and make fun of the player. Whereas we'd say, "Look at this horrendous foul on this player," like sort of thing. So we're still laughing at the same thing, but we're on the player's side, if you know what I mean, sort of thing. So I think a lot of that. I think we had incredibly high standards, and everyone worked incredibly hard. I think I learned so much from Tim Lovejoy about that, and it annoys me. It's annoying in some ways because now I very rarely work in something that has as high standards, and so it gets it's frustrating when you're used to that sort of thing. But yeah, so I think a real mix of things, talented people on the team, being sort of left alone by Sky. Yeah, a combination of things coming together in the best possible way.
Looking back now, do you think it's aged well? Because I see some clips on YouTube and stuff, and you was very close to the envelope on a lot of things. Do you think that's part of the reason why it's sort of, I don't know, once sort of your era sort of went and they changed the presenters and had to change the format and stuff, it sort of lost, as you said, it lost that appeal. Do you think that's because of the way the world's moved forward, or?
No, I think if we were still there, we would have moved with the world. If you know what I mean. And
Yeah,
there were things even at the time that I remember thinking, not sure about this. But also things like what's acceptable changes all the time,
yeah,
sort of thing like that. Um, I'm just trying to think of examples. In my first year or so, so in about 2001, probably 2001, when I first started at Soccer AM, the only cigarette I've ever smoked in my life was for a sketch on the show. But could you imagine turning on the TV now at like 9 in
exactly.
the morning and seeing some bloke smoking in a studio? It'd be mental. But at the time, it was fine, sort of thing for that sort of thing. But so things change really, and I think a lot of the time people talk about lad culture sort of thing, and in a negative way, which I get. But I think in the early days of it, it was quite inclusive. I think when I was
Yeah,
a kid, I remember that, like men would go to the pub and have a pint, and women would go somewhere else, or they might go and have a glass of wine somewhere in this. But with sort of when the sort of lad culture sort of thing came about, it was like men and women together watch the football, having pints sort of thing. And it was by no means perfect, but I think it was quite a sort of inclusive sort of thing, an imperfect inclusive sort of thing when you look at what came before, because change is gradual and obviously it's better now and more inclusive for everyone, but you get there in stages, not all at once.
and I also think it felt like you guys were just talking to your mates, as in we were included as your mates. Because even like when Chris Kamara was walking around stadiums, going into places he weren't allowed, that was
Yeah.
quality because in a way you was watching it, you're thinking to yourself, "Oh, please, Chris, just go in that door," and then all of a sudden
Yeah.
it opened that door, right? And I think that helped because you guys were sort of doing what we'd want to do.
I think it is a group of people who, I mean, we obviously came to work together sort of thing, but became friends there and got on well. Um, just making fun of each other in the way that friends do, sort of thing. Yeah.
No, exactly. No. Was there much ego on set?
No one ever went there to be on TV. Everyone went there to work on TV show and then got into doing sort of things. So Tim was very good putting an atmosphere where that wasn't really acceptable. And if anyone had got a bit too big for their boots, they'd get shot down pretty quickly, I think. So no, I mean, I think generally people were there to make a show that we were really proud of and do the best possible thing. And it was really hard work. And there were times where we with people I work with sort of moaning about things or saying how hard it was, but then you'd have a great show, and the next day you'd be in the pub with Noel Gallagher watching the Manchester Derby or something. You go, do you know what? It's all right.
Been seen effortless. I think
Mm.
that's when the most hardest work has come in, and just the Saturday mornings did seem effortless. As you said, it flowed. Everyone seemed like they was having a laugh. But like you've just alluded to, you started your working week on a Tuesday. I bet the hours were long as well.
Yeah. So yeah, you have to put a load of work to be able to make it look effortless. People would say to us, people would come down and go, "So what do you guys do during the week?" We go, "Well, make the show," sort of thing. So there was a lot of work that went into it. But yeah, generally we'd work Tuesday to Saturday, and we would Tuesday was all right. We get in probably about 9:30, finish at 6. Wednesday, probably 8 till 7. Thursday, 8 till 9 p.m. And then Friday I'd probably be in about 7:30, 8 o'clock, and I generally wouldn't leave till about 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, then back in at 6 for the show, sort of thing. So it was it was too long hours in hindsight. At the time, it was fine. We all just got on with it, but it's not the best. You shouldn't be that tired doing a live TV show. So but yeah, it was very long hours, but ultimately rewarding.
Definitely. So after, as you said earlier, after about 7 years, you left. Was that a mutual decision? Was that your decision?
I was just to say I got sacked for stealing, but the reality is, no, I for a while I wanted to leave, but we were doing so much just because I wanted to change, because I've done it for so long. But we were doing so much good, fun stuff that I didn't want to leave and then hear what everyone else was doing. So, like towards the end, we got to play football at Wembley Stadium. I went to 3 Champions League finals. We went to like get all whatever gigs I wanted, like Noel Gallagher's 40th birthday party and stuff. Like there's a lot of good things, good fun things going on. And then Tim got an opportunity to start an internet TV channel thing in the early days of internet TV, with Simon Fuller, 90 Entertainment, who managed David Beckham and later Andy Murray and the Spice Girls and Pop Idol and all these things, American Idol. And so we had this opportunity to do this with them. And I think for some of the guys, it was a bit of a sort of like, oh, I'm not sure what to do. But for me, I was like, yep, 100% in, because I wanted to leave anyway. So, so we went and worked at this thing called Channel B for a couple of years.
You also opened up a production company, didn't you? You still
Yeah, so that was when Channel B finished. I started up a production company because basically, again, as I said, I looked around at the TV shows on, and I didn't want to work any of them because I didn't think any of them were as good as Soccer AM had been. In the sort of entertainment space, I didn't want to go on like T4 and ask bands about their favorite biscuits and stuff like that. So like, oh god. So I started a production company making videos for brands and stuff, and it was around the time I got married and was having kids and stuff. So I it was like a good thing to do. Like I cared more about just having enough money in for the family and stuff. So and I still do that now, but less and less now that more of the sort of podcasty, YouTubey stuff is taken off. I still have clients I've worked with for years, but I tend not to look for work particularly.
When you was first getting clients, was people shocked that it was Robbie Knox from Soccer AM turning up to their business and stuff, or?
Well, some people I knew. Generally, it's been through word of mouth because I've literally never had a website, which is ludicrous in hindsight. But because I didn't want to grow a production company to sell or anything like that, I just wanted to have enough work. I never really needed it because I had enough to keep you busy, sort of thing. So, so no, I don't know. Sometimes it's weird because you get people to recognise you. Even now, every now and then, someone will go, "You work at Soccer AM," sort of thing when I go to somewhere. But I guess now it's more sort of young people and YouTube.
Talking about YouTube, what made you decide to move over to YouTube? Because obviously you come from the TV world.
I wanted to do sort of something creative, and I didn't really think of YouTube. I did a few little podcasts with some friends for a bit just to have something fun to do on the side, and then I was with my friend Will Brazier, who now works with Mark Goldbridge on doing content with him, something, and we're at Watford's training ground doing some filming with Troy Deeney, and Will said, "Why don't you start a YouTube channel?" And I said, "Well, I think I'm probably a bit old for that," because in my head, YouTube was like kids, and if you wanted to learn how to wire a plug or something like that, I mean, I've never wired a plug in my life. I don't know why I keep using that as an example, but so that's what I use YouTube for. But then he said, "I'm not being rude, but I know what it's like being an 18-year-old starting uni because every September there's 50,000 vlogs of it." He goes, "I don't really know what it's like being a middle-aged man." Something. So I went, okay. So I thought about it and I thought, okay, I'll do it. I thought I'll do a video a week for 6 months because I think if you can try something, you should try it properly to see what you think of it. And if I enjoy it, I'll carry on. So I did it, enjoyed it, carried on. Now you're stuck with me.
Yeah. Your content's very sporadic. So you've got your skiing, you've got your marathons, you've got your beer, you've got your beans, you've got your trying food and stuff. Is that a conscious effort?
It's mental. Yeah. Yes, it is, but it's stupid. Like it because I feel so sorry for people. People watch a skiing video. I've got a skiing video that's doing quite well. I think it's on like 40-something thousand views, and at the minute that came out a few days ago. And people will subscribe because they like that skiing video, and then they go on my channel, and it'd be me taking out the bins or something like that, and they'd be like, unsubscribe. I do not blame them. Whenever I put a video, loads of people unsubscribe because rightly so they've signed up for something, and then they're going, "What is this?" So I think it's the hardest way to grow a channel because you've not got a niche, but you build a particularly strong connection with the people that you do bring along with you, I think, because they're there for you, whatever it is you're doing. I think I should be more sensible at it because it's become more of my job. I was always like, I don't really care about the views, which I genuinely don't. If I put out a video and it got 1,000 views or it got 100,000 views, it doesn't affect me in the slightest. Like honestly, I know people probably don't believe that because it's no reflection of the quality of what I've done. Like it's just has has it hit the algorithm in whatever way and has appealed to things like that. However, that was always my view. But as it's become more of my job, and for people who don't know, a lot the way people tend to make money on YouTube, you get some money for ad revenue from YouTube, but you get much more money by doing brand deals where you have a little 60-second bit at the beginning of a video where you'll say, this is HelloFresh. I like their meals, blah, blah, blah. This is a code, buy it, something. And you get paid money by the brand to have you associate with their product. And they will look at how many views you're getting, rightly so, because they want to make sure they're getting their money's worth. So you kind of have to think, okay, is this going to get views to a degree? Because otherwise, next time you speak to someone, they're going to offer you less money, or it'll be harder to get someone in. Sort of thing. See, they're kind of the way it works. If you're doing it as a job, you do have to look at it a bit.
And how much pressure do you think having YouTube as a job for the younger people is? Because like someone you work close with, like Bambino Becky, she's sort of got her niche is the drinking lass. So
Yeah,
she then went off to try and do a really like positive video where drinking weren't involved. People might think, oh, hang on, that's not her. So she's
yeah.
under pressure in a way to keep to that niche. Do you think that's sort of fair on the younger people
I think
trying to
there's
come
more
through?
pressure, particularly for women as well. I think there's obviously a lot of idiots online who are just going to make like when I do videos with Becky, people will comment things that no one in their right mind should be like just sexual comments. So I'm just constantly going delete, delete, delete. Um, which is I just find it so bizarre that someone's going to write these things and put them on the internet. But I think there's pressures for young people that I didn't have growing up before. Really, there was the internet. I didn't really use the internet until I was 18. Didn't know it existed really until I was 18. So I think there are different sort of pressures in that respect. But then it works the other way as well, in that there's a lot less financial pressure when you're young. You can live. Well, I know
Yeah.
because I earned very little money in my first job, sort of thing. And I traveled around for a while. You can live on quite little money if you're frugal and sensible, and just put out content in a way that if you've got 3 kids, and mortgage, and all that sort of stuff, you can't as such. So I couldn't just go. I could have just gone. I'm going to go full on YouTube for this sort of thing because I had to work. So it has been a more gradual thing for me.
You're now a regular co-host on JaackMaate's Happy Hour. How did that
Mhm.
all come about?
Uh, Came down first of all with Tubes because Jack wanted Tubes on the show. I've known Jack for a few years. I just Tubes. I brought Tubes along, hung out with him there. Then he said, "I want you come on sometimes." I came on the podcast. Uh, People seem to like it. Then I think I came on a couple of other times, like Christmas specials or stuff. And then um, Jack asked me to host a thing with him called Happy Half Hour, which is like a small spin-off version of Happy Hour. We discussed a little thing, half-hour episodes where we discussed. I think what it would be like marriage or a different topic each week, essentially. So sort of educating Jackson, and then he signed the Spotify deal, and that meant that half hour didn't really fit into the structure. So he said just come on the main shows. So I've just kind of just stuck around and haven't left.
And what do you think it's about Jack and the other guys that you guys have got a really good connection now? Why do you think that happened?
I think they're all very nice. Uh, they're
Except
genuinely
Stephen Moore.
no, except Stevie. Stevie's obviously an asshole. I mean, they're all in all seriousness. They're all lovely. They all have a lot of, and you can see that in the way when we did our happy hour tour. The amount of time everyone had for the people who came along, sort of thing, is lovely. I think we're very funny. I think Jack in particular is obviously very sharp as well. So I think it's people with similar values, similar outlooks, and who don't take themselves too seriously. I think because a lot of people, I think, in YouTube do take themselves quite seriously. So I think having that combination of things is good.
Has there been any times that you've been sitting in the studio and recording and stuff where you think, hang on a second, this is a bit too.
I did something this week in the 5th birthday thing, a joke about Stevie, or a series of jokes about Stevie, and as soon as we did it, I said, because he didn't know about it in advance, I said, "Are you all right with that? We can cut that all out if you want." And he said, "No, I don't care." But I think you can sort of check in on people and check they are all right with stuff. Um, but people will say, "No, don't do this if they need to. We can we just edit around it." But there's not really that much off of it. And also, people are quite good at saying what they about not overstepping the limits. Jack can make jokes about Stevie that I wouldn't because I've not known him as long. People don't really get that there's a difference between someone who's grown up with someone making a joke and a random person making a joke. Stevie can make a joke about Jack's mum being an alcoholic because he's known him for a while, and it's a joke that Jack has made himself on the podcast, a lot of stuff, a lot of the time. That's a bit different from someone writing in the comments, "Your mum's an alcoholic," or something like that sort of thing, because it's not quite the
That's what
same if you don't know the person, sort of things. Yeah.
no, no. And also, you again talking about things looking effortlessly.
Mm.
You guys seem like that in the podcast. How much planning actually goes into an episode? I know Jack jokes about,
Yeah.
or is it really you don't really plan and just roll?
Not as much as I'd like from my soccer background. There's enough. I mean, it varies actually. It varies massively. Sometimes, like obviously we did a human centipede. I think I've got
Yeah,
a
I love
poster
that
in the
episode.
background, a poster somewhere
Yeah.
there on the back wall.
Oh, yeah.
We did a human centipede thing where Jack had written a script. So obviously, that's a lot of work going into that. He's planned it all out. He's done a lot of work there at home. Sometimes it's literally just chatting about what we've done. So it varies a bit. Um, there are times I'd probably personally, I've said to the lads a few times, why don't we meet up in Norwich once every week, once every couple of weeks and plan stuff? But it's not happened, but it's fine. It's just me being stuck in my soccer end ways.
Back to the centipede episode. Did you
Yep.
guys generally not know the script on the day you were in the
No,
studio?
and Jack was
Or
very
did
much
you
saying,
write
"Don't read ahead, don't read ahead, don't read ahead." So no, didn't know anything.
that? How scary was that for you guys?
Um, well, it's not really scary because you can always say no, cut that or something like that. But you are a bit like, "Oh God, what's this going to be?" Particularly when you're mentioning other people, jokes and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Like it's like you don't. I don't like upsetting people, and not that there was anything in there that's upsetting. But I think, oh God, what's he going to have written or something like that? Because old Jack was always having like beefs and arguments with people, whereas I'm more friendly than he used to be. But no, nothing bad. I think he did such a good job with it. It was so funny.
Yeah, no, it was a really good episode. As well, you brought up the tour. How did that come about?
So, how it came about, Jack always wanted to do sort of stand up or live performing or something like that, and we talked about it, but nothing really happened. And we did a one-off show to see whether we liked it in Norwich, and that went well, and everyone loved it. But the reality is, and I don't think anyone might be saying is, no one would have organised it apart from me. So I said to Jack, I said, "I don't want to step on anyone's toes, but do you want me to just organise this?" And he said yes. So I just went away. I went around and asked some friends who worked in comedy and entertainment. So I said, "Who are the best comedy promoters?" Everyone kept saying this company, Phil McIntyre. I got some doing me introduction. Went for a meeting. And just sat in the guy's office and said, a guy called Paul was brilliant. He's like, they do promotion for Queen and Strictly Come Dancing and all sorts of stuff. And for some reason, us. And they said, and I just went to the office and said, "Look, we want to do a live tour. We don't know what's realistic. We don't know anything about it. Don't assume that we know anything. Tell me to get out if you want, but what do you think?" And he said, "Yeah, sounds great." He said, "Well, what scale do you want to do it?" And I said, I have no idea what scale we should be looking at." And he said, "I probably wouldn't start with arenas." I was like, probably wouldn't, mate. No, no, we'll do that. So we put it on arranged it, checked it with the guys, and I sort of sat between the rest of the team and the producers, and sort of brought it together. Yeah.
And was it a conscious decision to have it at such a low price point? Did you want
Yeah.
to
Oh
be different
yeah.
to it?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. 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 But now we've money's coming. We regret. But no, it wasn't. No, it was. It was 100% that sort of thing. We wanted to make it as affordable as possible. We're putting it on sale when the cost of living crisis was kicking off. Jack's been very outspoken about YouTubers ripping people off in the past. And so it was, and I've not seen any podcast tour. It was 1950 plus booking fee, so we didn't have any control over what booking fee the venues charge. But generally, you're probably going to pay like 22 quid or something for a ticket.
Yeah.
I've not seen anyone at that price point doing the sort of thing that we were doing, and the merch as well. Like, I can't remember what t-shirts were, probably about 20 quid or something like that. Whereas so concert the other day, they were 35 quid, something like that. Something. In hindsight, if we were to do it ever again, it would have to be a bit more expensive because it's not really practical to do that forever, sort of thing. But not a huge amount. But I think yeah, it was a conscious decision, and I don't think anyone went home feeling ripped off.
No, and that's the main thing. Because in a way, that brings you more community. Yeah, exactly. But that brings you more community. And you've vlogged your legs of the tour as well.
Yeah.
But what I try and notice with your vlogging, you're very giving to everyone else around you. So, like, obviously, when you do collaborate with like Becky and stuff like that, so like you made a star out of tour manager John. That conscious decision when you was vlogging, was that just you capturing what was going on?
I think it's capturing what's going on. Obviously, first day I was there, I said to Pedro and Pietro. I don't know. So I was thinking that doesn't sound right, Pedro. Pietro, you said it. I know your name, Pietro, if you're listening. Pietro and John, and I said, "Are you happy being in these vlogs?" They're both, "Yeah, fine." And so it was just capturing what we were up to on tour, wherever I was going around, what I was doing. So it didn't actually include them in. But the reason I started doing them was because, the tickets sold so well, but we thought, well, try and mop up the last few tickets. If I show how much fun everyone's having and that we're going out to meet everyone at the end, someone who's on the fence might go, do you know what? I'd quite like to go and see them at the end. Well, let's bite the bullet and do it. So that's why I started doing them. And it's because it's an unnecessary thing to have to do, to get up at 8 a.m. and edit for an hour or so and just do these vlogs. Something. But I'm really glad I did them because it'd be a lovely thing to look back on. But yeah, so it was just capturing the sort of what was going on, really, and I think it's a fairly honest account of what it was like for most of it.
Did it ever get to points though where like enough was enough? You wanted to go home and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. I've got a family of 3 kids. So you miss.
Being their father.
Yeah, you miss all that sort of stuff. And also, it's just, it's amazing that no one fell out with anyone at all. But you've got to sort of take a step back sometime, and there's different pressures. Like, for example, or like we did think all caught up. It was helpful if we'd done something that day in the city we were in because we could talk about it. And that's fine for me because I wake up early. But Jack and Fee are night owls sort of thing, so they sort of would go to bed later. They get up later. So I was always, let's leave at 9. They're always, let's leave at midday, sort of thing like that. So there's sort of push and pull there. But then you've just got to I've got to sort of take a step back and go, okay, the most important thing is that at 7:30 every night, everyone's as well rested and able to do the show as possible. And if that means that we leave a bit later, so be it, sort of thing. So yeah, you've just got to be a bit tolerant of everything. Yeah.
Now moving on as well, you've just recently done the Lisbon Marathon.
Yep, that's right. Yeah, didn't win.
So well, doing a marathon's a big achievement itself. I know you've done a couple. What brought you into the fitness side of things?
I was just looking for my medal. I thought I had it around here somewhere, but I don't know where it is. Fitness side of things. Just not wanting to die too young, really. I think I don't like running, as in the actual. I never go, oh, I want to go running generally, but I like the progress. I like challenging myself. I'm not really a competitive person against other people. I don't care about having a race with someone, but I like trying to beat my times or trying to do something that I've set myself a challenge of doing, sort of thing. So in that respect, yeah, that's where I sort of came into doing that. And I did a marathon in Edinburgh last year. It didn't go well, but it wasn't entirely my fault. I've been quite ill. I missed a few weeks training, and just by the end of it, you're like, oh, what's the point? I'm going to get a dreadful time anyway. So it was horrendous. But this time round, I did not miss a single in like the 16, 18 weeks build up to it. I didn't miss a single run because I couldn't be asked. There were times when I was away and I couldn't. I got festivals. There's no real way you can run, or if I'm working, if I'm out at 5 a.m. and get in at 11, there's no way you run there. But at no point was I sat on the sofa and thought, "Do you know what? I'm just going to watch TV." I just did every run I was supposed to. And I was really proud of myself for doing that, more so than the marathon. And you do see the progress. And I think it bleeds into other parts of your life. I think you you sort of, when you realize that you can have that discipline to follow a training program, it gives you the discipline to do other things and go, I'm going to upload this more regularly. I'm going to finish this or do this sort of thing. It all fits together. There's a book by Haruki Murakami, and it's called What I Talk About When I Talk About Running. And it's basically, he's into running. He's not by no means a sort of amazing athlete or anything like that. I think he's in his 60s by now anyway, or 70s. But he talks about how it bleeds into other parts of your life and how the challenge of yourself makes you feel better and makes you more productive in other sort of things. So yeah.
I tend to agree with that. So about 4 years ago, I took part in a charity boxing event for cancer research,
Brilliant.
and to do the 8 week training, like you sort of live life as the boxer, but
Yeah.
it was to go for the runs and the eating and stuff. It's changed my mind mentally to when wanting to do other things. Because, like you said, bringing that discipline in, it's not like 100%. Like I'm not like feeling every day, but
No, but
it
it
does.
makes a difference. It makes you know you
Yeah,
can do things, and it reinforces that practice makes perfect or training works, sort of thing. It makes you understand that if you do this, this, and this, you can do this. But if you don't do those bits, you can't do that, sort of thing like that. And it's that's the same thing. So I learned at Soccer AM as well, sort of thing, and happy hour with the tour, sort of thing. You sort of go, we know we can do the tour, but we need to do all these bits to get up to. We need to write this. We need to plan this. We need to do or go for these meetings and that. And you can achieve a lot when you have a sort of methodical approach to it, I think.
exactly. What's next for you? What do you want to do next?
What do I want to do? I want to continue doing YouTubey things. I've taken over another podcast called The Moon Underwater that I really enjoy. So I'm enjoying doing that. Just keep doing more of this stuff and probably become a little bit more secure, be able to rely more on this and less the production company stuff, which to be fair, I'm mostly there. But yeah, just more of the same, I think, really. Yeah. I'd like to do more skiing videos this winter, and I think that I'm on track to do that. I've got a few plans coming up.
Right, brilliant. Right, we're on to our final question, and this is a question I ask every guest. Your
Super.
answer, yeah, your answer will not change your life's outcome so far, but if you had 30 seconds with your 13-year-old self, what would you say?
I'd tell him everyone's scared. No one really knows what they're doing, and you're good. Have the confidence to do what you want to do.
Well, Robbie, thank you so much for your time this evening.
I enjoyed it. Thank you.